Hey, everybody, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today, we're going to be looking at a topic that's, I think, really important for everybody, and that is personal safety and awareness. We're going to be looking at a chat log that was sent in that talks about the color code of combat. Now, you might have heard of this before. It was developed by Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Cooper, and it's a system that he came up with to assess your level of awareness and your readiness in, kind of a tactical situation. But really, you can apply it to all kinds of things in your life. This chat log in particular is interesting because it really focuses on how individuals who are transitioning from prison or gang involvement can apply this to their lives. But I think you'll find that a lot of the things that are talked about in this chat log are applicable no matter your background.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that's really interesting about the color code is that it's a framework for understanding and managing risk. And that's something that all of us have to do regardless of our past.
Absolutely. So let's kind of break down this color code. The chat log starts with condition white, which they describe as being the most vulnerable state. Can you kind of explain what that looks like?
Yeah, so condition white is, when you're completely oblivious to your surroundings. I think about like walking down the street with your headphones in, you're lost in your own world. You're not paying any attention to the people or the environment around you. You're essentially a sitting duck.
Yeah. That's a scary thought. It makes you realize how easy it is to just kind of be a target if you're not paying attention.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why this chat log is emphasizing like moving out of condition white as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So the next level up is condition yellow.
Yeah.
And this is a state of relaxed alertness.
Okay, so you're not paranoid, but you are aware.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're scanning the environment, you're taking in information, but you're not fixated on any specific threat. Like imagine yourself in a parking lot at night. You're probably not, expecting to be attacked, but you are kind of keeping an eye out for anything unusual.
It's like a heightened sense of awareness without letting fear take over.
Right. And this is really the ideal state to be in most of the time. It allows you to react appropriately if a situation arises, but it doesn't consume you with anxiety.
Yeah, this is already making me think about how often I'm probably in condition white and don't even realize it.
Yeah, I think it's more common than you think. But once you become aware of this, these color codes, you start to notice these states in yourself and in others.
So let's say you are in condition yellow and you notice something that's, raises your concern. What happens next?
So that's when you transition to condition orange, specific alert. So now you've identified a potential threat and you're focusing your attention on it.
You mean an example?
Sure. So imagine you're walking home alone at night and you sense someone is following you. Okay, that's a condition orange situation. You're not in immediate danger, but you are aware of a potential problem and you need to start planning your response.
So you're assessing the situation. You're trying to figure out if this is really a threat, and you're thinking about your options.
Exactly. And this is where the color code, I think, becomes really powerful because it provides a framework for making decisions under pressure. So in condition orange, you might decide to, change your route, speed up your pace, or even call someone to let them know where you are.
Right.
You're taking control of the situation. You're not letting fear paralyze you.
And if that threat escalates, if that person following you starts to approach aggressively, that's when you move into condition red.
Right.
Action mode.
Action mode, exactly. Condition red is when the threat is imminent and you need to react immediately. That might involve defending yourself physically or running away, or using your voice to try to deter the attacker.
And this is where all of the training and the mindset that's discussed in this chat log becomes really important, especially for individuals who are coming from backgrounds where violence may have been more commonplace.
Absolutely. The chat log really emphasizes, channeling that aggression, not letting it control you, but using it as a tool for self-preservation. It's about making conscious choices even in high-stress situations.
And that brings us to the final level, condition black.
Yes. Condition black is a complex state. It can manifest as a complete mental and physical breakdown under extreme stress. Essentially, you freeze up. Or, and this is what's really emphasized in the chat, it can be a state of survival where you might need to take very decisive, even offensive action to protect yourself.
So in a life or death scenario, condition black could either mean fighting back with everything you have, or it could mean succumbing to fear.
Yeah.
And just losing the ability to act.
That's a powerful distinction. And the chat log makes a point of saying that for people coming from environments where violence was a way of life, transitioning that aggression into controlled, purposeful action in condition black can really be a matter of survival.
So we've got these 5 levels of awareness
Yeah.
and readiness. But how do we actually apply this color code to real-world situations,
Yeah.
especially beyond just
Yeah.
things that are explicitly about physical self-defense?
Right. That's what we're going to get into next. It's about recognizing that these principles can help you navigate a wide range of challenges, everything from, workplace conflicts to family arguments
Yeah.
to just feeling safer in your community. It's really a versatile framework.
Yeah, this is fascinating. I'm really interested to learn more about how to apply this to those everyday situations. So let's dive into that.
Let's do it. So you mentioned that the color code can be applied beyond, these like physical self-defense situations.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about that. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So how we were talking about awareness and assessment and taking appropriate action. Well, that can apply to so many areas of life. So let's say, for example, you're dealing with a really difficult coworker, someone who's,
Yeah, sure.
constantly undermining you or trying to make your life difficult at work.
Okay. Yeah, I think we've all had that coworker at some point or another.
So instead of, immediately reacting with anger or frustration,
Yeah.
You can use the color code to take a step back.
Okay, so you're saying like use the color code to kind of assess the situation first.
Exactly. So you would start by, observing the situation from that condition, yellow, that relaxed alertness.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to their behavior patterns.
Mm-hmm.
What are the triggers that set them off?
So you're saying I should be gathering information, trying to understand like why is this person acting this way?
Right. And that allows you to kind of anticipate potential problems and avoid getting caught off guard. Now, if the situation starts to escalate, that's when you shift into condition orange.
Okay, so in this context, condition orange would mean like I need to plan my response to this coworker.
Yeah. You're considering your options. Do I need to set firmer boundaries? Do I need to document their behavior? Do I need to involve HR? But you're doing it strategically. You're not reacting impulsively.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like you're taking the emotion out of it.
Yeah.
And you're approaching it with a more level head.
Right. And then if the situation becomes truly hostile, you might even have to move into condition red. Take decisive action to protect yourself.
So that could look like what? Confronting them directly. Right. Removing myself from the situation.
Yeah. Reporting their behavior.
Okay.
So, it's not just about physical safety. It's about mental and emotional well-being, too.
Absolutely. And the chat log even goes deeper, talking about how you can use the color code to manage personal emotions, like anger and frustration.
Now, this is really interesting. How does that work?
So think about those moments when you feel yourself getting angry. Maybe someone cuts you off in traffic, or you have a disagreement with a loved one. Typically, you might react impulsively. You lash out verbally or even physically.
You've been there. It's like you just lose control.
Right. But the color code offers a different approach. It encourages you to recognize those early warning signs. The tightening in your chest, the racing thoughts, as a signal to transition into condition orange.
Okay, so instead of letting the anger just build and build, I'm using it as a cue to kind of become more aware.
Yeah.
And start planning my response.
Exactly. You might take a few deep breaths, remove yourself from the situation, or even mentally rehearse how you want to respond. The key is to move from a reactive state to a proactive one.
It's like you're intercepting the anger before it explodes.
Exactly.
And choosing a more constructive way to deal with it.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier that this chat log focuses on individuals transitioning from prison or gang involvement.
Yeah.
How does the color code apply specifically to their challenges?
So for these individuals who may have relied on, aggression and violence as coping mechanisms, the color code offers a framework for transforming those behaviors.
So it's like breaking free from those old patterns.
Yeah.
And creating new, healthier ones.
Exactly. And the chat log offers some specific techniques for managing aggression. For example, one technique is using the color code to create distance.
Yeah.
So if you sense a situation escalating, moving to condition orange allows you to create physical space, so you're in a better position to react safely.
So that can mean like stepping back from a confrontation, changing your route if you feel unsafe, or even just like taking a moment to collect your thoughts.
Right. It's about creating that buffer zone, both physically and mentally, to avoid making impulsive decisions. Another technique they discuss is verbal dominance.
Verbal dominance, what does that mean?
So it's about using your voice as a tool to deter potential aggression. So imagine someone's approaching you in a threatening manner. Instead of shrinking back, you use a firm, commanding voice to say, back off, or leave me alone.
I can see how that could be really effective. It's like you're projecting confidence.
Yeah.
And letting the aggressor know that you're not going to be an easy target.
Exactly. And it's not about being aggressive yourself. but assertive. You're setting boundaries and making it clear that you're not going to tolerate disrespect or violence.
This whole concept of verbal dominance is really interesting. But are there situations where it might backfire?
That's a great question, and the chat log does acknowledge that it's not a foolproof technique, in some situations, especially if the other person is, highly volatile or intoxicated. Trying to assert dominance verbally might just escalate things further.
So it's about being aware of the context.
Right.
And using your judgment.
Exactly, and that's where training comes in. Knowing these techniques is one thing, but being able to apply them effectively under pressure takes practice.
I mentioned that would involve like role-playing different scenarios.
Yeah.
Practicing those verbal commands.
Yeah.
And really internalizing the principles of the color code.
Exactly. And for individuals coming from backgrounds where violence was the norm, this type of training can be transformative. It's about replacing those old reactive patterns with new, more constructive ones.
It's like you're rewiring your brain for safety and awareness. So what about those situations where even verbal dominance or creating distance isn't enough? What if you're facing an imminent threat and you need to defend yourself physically?
Then that's where condition red kicks in, decisive action. And the chat log is very clear that this is a last resort. This is not about seeking out confrontation or using violence unnecessarily. It's about protecting yourself when all other options have been exhausted.
So it's about channeling that aggression
into
controlled, purposeful movements, using your skills to neutralize the threat and escape to safety.
Precisely. And this is where physical self-defense training becomes so crucial. Knowing how to strike effectively, how to break free from a grab, how to use your environment to your advantage. These skills can literally be life-saving.
It's empowering to think that, even in those most dangerous situations, you have the ability to fight back and protect yourself.
It is empowering. And for individuals who may have felt powerless in the past, this sense of agency can be transformative. It's about reclaiming control, not just over your physical safety, but over your life.
So the color code is more than just a set of tactics. It's a philosophy of personal growth and empowerment.
It is. And it's a journey. It's about constantly striving to increase your awareness, to refine your responses, and to ultimately live with more intention, purpose, and confidence.
It's amazing to me how this chat log is able to take something that was developed for, military and law enforcement and make it applicable to everyday life for just the average person. It's really remarkable.
It really is. And I think one of the things that makes the color code so powerful is that it's so adaptable. We've talked about how you can use it to, deal with a difficult coworker, de-escalate an argument with your spouse, manage your anger in traffic. It really is a framework that you can use in almost any situation where you might feel threatened or unsafe.
Yeah, right. And it's almost like it gives you this mental toolkit that you can access whenever you need it to help you respond thoughtfully instead of just reacting emotionally.
I love that analogy of a toolkit because it really is like you're equipping yourself with these mental and emotional skills to navigate challenging situations.
And you're moving from that feeling of being a victim to feeling empowered.
Exactly. And that shift in mindset is huge, especially for people who maybe haven't always felt in control. Maybe they've been in situations where they felt powerless. The color code can really help them to reclaim that sense of agency.
So for someone listening to this who's feeling inspired and wants to start applying the color code, where would you recommend they begin?
I would say the first step is just awareness. Start paying attention to your surroundings. Notice those little cues that might signal a potential problem. And remember, threat doesn't always have to be physical. It could be, a tense meeting at work, a conflict brewing at home, or even just walking alone at night and feeling uneasy.
It's about trusting your gut instinct, because a lot of times those feelings of unease or discomfort are trying to tell you something.
Exactly. And then once you start to develop that awareness, start thinking about how you would respond in those situations. What are your options? What steps can you take to de-escalate things? Who can you call for help? Just by mentally rehearsing those scenarios, you're already starting to internalize the principles of the color code.
It's like you're creating these if-then plans in your mind so that when you are faced with a real-life challenge, you don't have to start from scratch.
Yeah. Exactly. You've already got a plan.
And then you can refine it as you go.
Right. And as you become more comfortable with the basics, there are so many resources out there that you can explore to deepen your understanding. There are books and articles and online forums and even self-defense courses that can teach you specific techniques for managing aggression, asserting yourself, and protecting yourself physically if necessary.
It sounds like there's a whole world to explore here.
There is.
And I think this deep dive has really just scratched the surface.
It has, but hopefully it's given people a good foundation to start building upon.
Absolutely. Well, I think this has been an incredibly insightful conversation.
I agree.
What I find really inspiring about the color code is that it's not just about staying safe. It's really about personal growth. It's about developing self-awareness, discipline, the ability to make conscious choices even when you're under pressure.
Yeah, it's about taking control of your life instead of letting life control you.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final question to think about. What is one area of your life where you can start applying the color code today? Maybe it's improving your situational awareness. Maybe it's setting stronger boundaries in your relationships. Maybe it's learning to manage your anger more constructively. Whatever it is, I encourage you to take that first step and see what kind of positive changes it can bring to your life.
Well said.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
So be patient with yourself and keep practicing. I think we all have the potential to live safer, more empowered lives. And the color code can be a powerful tool to help us get there.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.